What made you finally wear an honest-to-God costume? Mine's red so they can't see me bleed. But I could see how yellow would be useful, too.
Have you been checked?
And I just want to say, as someone who used to camp out for hours just to get into Hall H, it is a great privilege to be talking to you today.
Hey, thank you. And you used to, because now you get the VIP treatment. You just go in whenever you want now, discussing film. I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it.
So my first question I wanted to ask, obviously one of the biggest tasks with this movie was preserving the legacy of Logan without negating it. And of course, now we know from the trailer released today that, Daphne Keane is also back. I was kind of curious if you could touch upon that and maybe say what was the most difficult aspect of preserving that previous legacy that Hugh Jackman had at Fox.
Well, that was something we had talked about many, many years ago. One of the earliest conversations I had with Hugh after the acquisition of Fox by Disney was Logan's one of the greatest stories ever. We can't undo that. We can't touch that. And we didn't for many, many years. And when this idea came about, and when the storyline came about, and when Hugh reached out to Ryan as a momentous moment, I believe, in certainly Marvel history and maybe movie history, it was still saying, okay, how do we do this in a way that doesn't, as you say, negate the amazing drama and emotion of Logan? And the time was just right, because the multiverse is something we had established and set up, and the Time Variance Authority was right there to help us navigate those waters in a way that allowed Deadpool to go search for a Wolverine that wasn't dead in the ground. And I think that's, yes, in the 40 minutes that you saw, we just run straight at that. Right.
And of course, Deadpool loves to wing at the audience. He loves to make his jokes. But I was kind of shocked at how much he's truly riffing on Marvel and a lot of inside jokes, a lot of jokes with the fans. And even he's kind of addressing some of the criticisms that people have had. So I'm curious, from your point of view, what was it like to see Ryan and Sean kind of go in at Marvel Studios, and you're like, well, you got to let them do that because that's what they're doing,
And you're saying this based on the 40 minutes you've watched? Yeah. Wait till you see the whole movie. Wait till you see the whole movie. You say riffing, and there certainly was some riffing. Almost all of it, and particularly everything you're mentioning now, was in this draft, was in the script, and was part of the Deadpool. I mean, in Deadpool 2, he shoots himself in the head multiple times, right? He shoots Ryan Reynolds for reading the Green Lantern script, right? So if you can't poke fun at yourself, that's sort of not the spirit, I think, of Marvel in general, but specifically of Deadpool. So I think that was certainly, Deadpool is allowed to say, he speaks, off the cuff in a way that, of course, has been written months before in a script, but that needs to, you need to be able to take it. And he makes fun of himself, and he makes fun of Wolverine, and he makes fun of us. And it's frankly some of our favorite parts of the movie.
Right. And of course, you talked about the TVA, and a lot of people who see the trailers, they can recognize that stuff from Loki. But obviously the conversation always comes up. You can't assume that everyone who's going to go into this movie has seen Loki and knows what the TVA is. Have you found that more easier to navigate in recent years, connecting the Disney Plus shows to movies, or is it still kind of like trial and error?
Well, I think it's just, what does the story require? In other words, as I'd said, the storyline we're telling in the Deadpool and Wolverine require the ability to jump through timelines and to have that. So the organization is established in the movie, and as you saw in the first 40 minutes, as a place that is new to Deadpool. Deadpool has no idea what this place is. So as the audience surrogate, and we presume nobody knows what it is when they come into the movie, and we're led through it through Deadpool's eyes. Just like the first time an Avenger went onto a helicarrier in Avengers 1, you see that new environment, new location for the first time through your hero's eyes.
Right. So I have to say, Deadpool and Wolverine as a movie just further cements Hugh's icon status. By all means, he is the Wolverine. But as you just said, anything can happen in the multiverse. So I'm kind of curious, because you've talked about Marvel Studios being in the early stages of reintroducing the X-Men. Do you think there is still a chance that a new actor, maybe someone younger, whoever, can come down the line and give their own interpretation of Wolverine?
Yes, I mean, I think Marvel's celebrating its 85th anniversary later this summer, and I think that's just the first 85 years. Disney just celebrated its 100 years. I think these characters will be around for another 100 years, long after all of us. So for sure, there will be. I think it will be in a very different style, in a different way. I think if somebody were to attempt to do a Hugh Jackman as Wolverine impression, that would be a pretty big mistake. But as comic readers know, there are various and very, very different versions of these characters over the decades, and it would be fun to explore different ones someday down the line. Again, we don't have immediate plans by any means, but in the decades to come. I think it's inevitable, but I think if that happens, it would have to be a very different and bold reinterpretation of it, because no one will be as great as Hugh Jackman at doing his version of Wolverine.
Right. So now that he's back and he was able to make his return, even after the emotional ending of Logan, the question begs, can the same be done with other Marvel actors? And of course, in recent years, Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., more recently, they talk about that they're open to the idea. Do you think there could be a way to bring back those two pivotal characters, Cap and Iron Man, that would, again, just like Hugh Jackman, not negate?
Well, that's the key, right? Is how do you do it in a way that maintains what has come before in a great way. And we've been spending, the last 2+ years figuring that out for Wolverine. So what's to come, we'll see. We're just proud that I think we have figured it out for Wolverine. I think Hugh's appearance and role and starring role in this movie is a great sign that it can be done if great care is taken.
Right. And final question, because I'm short on time. I remember growing up with the Fox movies in the early 2000s, going to Comic-Con. I've seen your enthusiasm for bringing in the X-Men. I've seen that firsthand. I can only imagine, how does it feel for you now that we have Hugh in the MCU and they're talking about X-Men stuff? How does that feel for you? It feels like we're on the cusp of something big where we could see the X-Men and other Avengers face to face.
It is extremely emotional on a personal level to have done a movie with Hugh after 25 years, and me being a small part of that first X-Men movie, and knowing now that thanks to various corporate studio entities deals, we now have thousands of characters back. Characters I hadn't frankly thought about in many years because we didn't have the rights to them. And now that we do, it is great fun thinking, and our animated series X-Men 97 was sort of the first taste of I think people reuniting with how that mythology and that storyline, and the response to that series just further excited us about how to bring that the soap opera and the saga of the mutants to the MCU.
Can't wait to see what you're doing next week. I'll be there.
You should wait in line for old time's sake. Just get in line early for old times. It's part of the experience.
I will.
Okay, good.